Welcome to a Voice from the Hills Community Spotlight Series. I'm James Werner, co-founder of Silicon Hills Wealth Management here in Austin, Texas. And our Spotlight organization is the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas. The goal of the coalition is to break the cycle of intergenerational poverty through improved literacy. And the challenge is a big one. 43 million adults in the United States alone read, write, and do basic math at a third grade level or lower. The vast majority of children living with parents without a high school diploma grow up in poverty. Now, joining us today to discuss the coalition is Executive Director Janet Torres. Janet holds a law degree from Boston University, and she's held senior level positions at New York's Botanical Gardens, the Wildlife Conservation Center, and Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Most recently, Janet served as Executive Director of the Kindness Campaign. So let's turn the spotlight on the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas with Janet Torres.
James Werner is the founding partner of Silicon Hills Wealth Management and the host of A Voice from the Hills podcast. All opinions expressed by James, his co-host, and his guest are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Silicon Hills Wealth Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of Silicon Hills Wealth Management may maintain positions in securities discussed in this podcast.
And good afternoon, Janet, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Now, you've recently just celebrated your 1-year anniversary as Chief Executive Officer for Literacy Coalition, so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Let's catch the listeners up with just some background information on you and kind of what brought you to the coalition.
Sure. Well, I am a lawyer, but my background is in legislation. So my love for the public sector and my desire for social change came from my pursuit of my law degree to be a policymaker and a legislative writer. So I spent almost my entire career in New York City as a legislative attorney on the city, state, and in the governor's office. I came to Central Texas 7 years ago, took a little break from the nonprofit world, and then I was with an amazing organization as an executive director for the Kindness Campaign. And then, like I said, a year ago, I joined the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas. And to me, the reason why I love and the reason why I pursued joining the coalition is because I do believe literacy is opportunity and literacy changes lives. I think people do not realize how important and how many people in the United States, 43 million, who can only read, write, and do basic math at a third grade level. And that translates to 3 million Texans. It's an economic cost. It's a health cost. It's an education cost. And I think people do not make that connection. They're like, oh, reading is fundamental. Reading is so important. But it goes beyond that towards self-sufficiency, people rising out of poverty. And so when I saw this opportunity, I'm like, this is for me, because my background is in economic development. And when I was as a legislative attorney. So when I saw this opportunity, there, it was great and wonderful to join them. And I'm very, very lucky.
And then the central mission of the Literacy Coalition is to break that intergenerational cycle of poverty, right? Through, I believe the way you talk about it is holistic literacy services, which I think is kind of maybe a unique way to talk about it and even phrase it. Let's talk for a moment about that link between poverty and literacy. You mentioned some of the numbers already, but what does the data tell us? How substantial is that link?
It is substantial. So 82% of children are most likely to live in poverty when they're in a household where their parents do not have a high school diploma. The children who are in Central Texas who are not kindergarten ready only holds at 38%. So when we say people are always curious, why do you say breaking intergenerational poverty? Well, the effects on the children is based on what's happening in the parents' lives. So one of the things that's so important is that when we see someone finally achieve their GED or their high school equivalency, we're saying your child is graduating also. And that means you're more likely that your child now will finish high school. So there is, empirical data that shows and supports that, that, that outcome. And so we're trying to, like I said, like we say, break that intergenerational link of poverty between what parents and children. And we do that through a number of ways. And I love holistic. I made that change with my board and the team. It used to be called, we used to say comprehensive services. And I believe holistic is a much better way to look at it. We're looking at the person as a person, not just you're coming in, 3 to 4 days a week, to do and get your GED. We're not that type of organization. What we say is we meet the person where they're at. And what does that mean? That person has a life. That person has trauma in their life. Maybe maybe they have trauma from school. That's the reason why they didn't finish school. So we're not going. You don't come to us and you're in a class where there's a beginning, middle, and an end. There is, but not in a structured way. And the way that what I mean by that is that you come in at your own pace. We meet the student where they're at. So if you're coming in at a 4th grade reading level or a 5th grade reading level, and you want to achieve your high school equivalency, well, it's going to take time. You have to be at least at a minimum a 9th grade reading, writing level and math level to even go forward in the GED process. So we have students who have been with us, 2, 3 years just to get to the point of GED. And then there's the GED track. So we capture individuals who may not even be ready to be part of other organizations that provide those high school equivalency programs because it's too accelerated for them. So we are catching individuals who won't even make it into beyond a GED program somewhere else.
And one of the great things I like on your site is the literacy tree. It's a really great visual.
Thank you.
And of course, the fruit of that tree is improved reading and language skills. It's job placement. It's school ready children. That those are all the fruits of your overall labor. But how does the Literacy Coalition operate to work toward that ultimate goal? How do you actually care for that tree to get the fruit?
Right. And it all begins, with our partnerships because we are a coalition. So it's at its core, we are a coalition. We have 67 partners, and we not only do direct services, but we also are what I call a living laboratory of experiments in programming that then we share with our partners and our other literacy partners in Central Texas. 67 of them, pretty big amount of partnerships we have. With that, if you don't have your partnerships, then the community can't grow your tree, and that literacy tree. So we also have that tree growing because we also train and place AmeriCorps members. And I don't know if your audience knows AmeriCorps, but AmeriCorps is an opportunity to do direct service for 1 year at a nonprofit. And it's through the federal government. And VISTA is also a part of that. That was started under JFK's term. And those individuals help build capacity. So we are not only doing our own direct service, we are amplifying that work through our partnerships, our training of communities, community partners in, again, best practices. We created an amazing ESL teacher training program that we train individuals. Like we've taken our own outlook of how we interact with our students through a trauma-informed care lens. Many people have gone through trauma. We all have. But there's a reason why you don't have like I said earlier, your high school diploma. So we've trained our staff. We've trained our AmeriCorps members who go out into literacy organizations to ensure that when they're teaching, they're dealing with individuals, that you do it with the utmost care and have the tools to deal with someone who has gone through trauma. And we've taken that and we created our own professional development program, basically. That's Black for a better term. And we've trained over 2,000 people in the community
Oh, wow.
who are practitioners in the community. I don't think a lot of people know that. We kind of like don't talk about it very much, but that's an amazing way to take something that we take very personally, treating someone with dignity and understanding their trauma so they can succeed in their program. Because how can you finish a GED program? How can you study math and English and if you're hungry, you don't have a place to sleep, you have mental health issues? We do this wraparound care. And so we decided to do, as we were doing our own internal training, like, hey, this may be interesting. People started asking us to do trainings on the outside, like workforce solutions of the capital area. We've already done 2 rounds of trainings for all of their staff at the 3 workforce centers. So there's so much we do, and it's a great marriage of like what we do internally, what we've taken externally, and what we can provide our partner organizations with through AmeriCorps.
And I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, but that proper training is really crucial because you're dealing with people that not only have a literacy gap, but they also have trauma. They also have experiences in their life that keep them, maybe from just embarking on that standard education journey. I mean, you have to have people that are willing to and able to kind of break through those barriers to get even to the educational component. Is that
Yeah.
is that kind of some of the things you've developed in your lab? And I think I heard you talk about motivational interviewing skills
Yes.
and how crucial those are in working with your population. Can you tell the audience what that really means and how effective that
Sure.
is and what?
That's when we are teaching individuals about trauma, direct practitioners, direct service practitioners. We also teach them a thing called motivational interviewing skills. And what is that? That's a way to break down how to speak to someone. So if you fail an exam, you don't say, "Well, you failed the exam. Sorry, you can't move forward." Versus talking to them in a way to be like, "Okay, so let's come up with a plan, so we can work on achieving this goal for you. Let's set up some goals for you." So it's just, again, taking, it's how you say it that triggers someone's trauma. Well, we give you the tools of how to speak to someone that you will not trigger that you will in have that person become more open to you with their issues, that they say, you know what, I really am hungry, or I can't get to school. I can't get here because I can't afford a bus pass, or my car is broken down, or I need a new pair of glasses. We did that for somebody. We purchased someone's glasses so they can continue to participate in our programs and in life. So, again, the that understanding of like the whole person, that goes back to holistic services, looking at the person as not just a student, but as an individual who is going through a lot. And you know what? It takes a lot of courage to say, I want to learn. I know we have people all the way to age 69 who are in our programs to make that decision. Today, I want to get my high school diploma, or today I want to be able to read a book to my child in English. So, I want a job. So we have vocational training. We have amazing partnerships with groups that do vocational training, and then we do the English as a second language contextualized. And I don't know if people understand what contextualized means. That means that just in your own, how do you speak English and understand English and to be successful at work? So so it's just going all, but it all goes back to that, looking at every person through a trauma informed lens. And 40% of our students identify as survivors of violent crimes or situations.
Oh, wow, that's heartbreaking.
Mm.
And so you've got 2,000 people that you're training with, affiliating with. You've got 67 different partner organizations. I mean, you're solving a very difficult kind of multi-layered problem, but you're also interacting on it from a lot of different angles in conjunction with a lot of different people. How do you rise to that leadership challenge? That's got to be difficult.
Yes, and And one of the things I started doing when I started this job on LinkedIn, haven't done it for a little bit, but every time I get motivated to do it. It's called my musings on leadership. So I'm always looking to see, how can I become a better leader, a person? How can I be a boss to somebody that I would want? And that's how I move forward in my interactions with my team. And it's very important that I want them to feel like they're being heard, that there's understanding, there's teaching moments, there's support, there's mentorship. All those pieces that are important to me and that I needed in my career that maybe I didn't have and I didn't get. I try very hard to be that for the amazing people who I work with every day, who have made sacrifices, who have made a decision to be in the public sector. And for me, in my entire career, I've only had one private sector job. I made a conscious effort and decision to be in the public sector, and to me, that's the closest to mission work, if you call it that I've dedicated my heart and my life. And anyone who's in my life knows I'm going to be calling them up for help to, help at an event or, donate a service. And so it becomes very much family oriented. Every job that I have, it becomes so much more than that. And and then, there are times where I'm feeling low. There are times where I feel that I don't have all the answers. And I tell that, and I say that to my board, and I say that to my team. And when I first started doing that, I started getting this like, wow, okay, you're not perfect. You're not like have all the answers. And I'm like, no, I don't. And I make mistakes, and I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I want to learn from everybody. And I will learn from my own mistakes. And when I find myself that, I've done something that maybe I have misunderstood, I take ownership for that. And I think people appreciate that so much that I think people forget that trust needs to be earned. And if you don't have that trust, then you're not going to be able to do much, because people won't believe in you, especially in the nonprofit world. Integrity is very important. And I've always said, so when I used to write these little musings on LinkedIn, there was one I wrote about vulnerability in leadership. And I think it's very important for leaders to show vulnerability, and that's not a weakness, it's a strength. And also, people talk a lot about being kind and empathetic. To me, those are extremely important leadership skills that continues and needs to be cultivated in our business schools, in our private sector, and in the public sector. I think I always would tell people, don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Well, I think that sums it up very well. Janet, thank you so much for joining us today. If you've been listening and you'd like to learn more about the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas, please visit their website at willread.org. The coalition is having their annual fundraiser at the Austin Public Library on Friday, April 29th. There's still some last-minute seats available. Also, if you'd like to inquire about volunteer opportunities or partnering with the coalition, please email Janet directly at janet.torres@willread.org, and Torres has 2 R's. Thank you for engaging with us and learning more about the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas.